Okay, this is a short mini lesson on the rhetorical strategy Antithesis. The bulk of this lesson was created by Beatrice, Amanda, and Kaylin, and they did a great job with it, and it should be helpful to you in understanding better how the strategy of antithesis works and why it's used. And just notice it's usually pronounced antithesis as opposed to antithesis. So antithesis would be the way to say it. Let's start out with a basic definition of what antithesis is, okay? Antithesis is when opposite things or ideas are placed close to each other or compared. When different thoughts or ideas are placed together, okay? It's to show a sort of contrast or to compare it or to relate the two ideas or show how they're different. Anytime you see two very different things together, it creates an antithesis, right? So, for example, here, heaven is the antithesis of hell. Disorder is the antithesis of order. Therefore, the antithesis visual element is basically an opposite, right? So you understand this. So when you're asked to do a rhetorical analysis, you have to be able to explain why a writer or speaker would use this strategy antithesis. And a good way to think about that is to say it affects the audience. The use of antithesis affects the audience by creating an obvious contrast in the ideas, making it clear what the difference is in ideas, sometimes as a way to actually address the counter argument, which addressing the counter argument is actually a different rhetorical strategy. So a lot of times you see these strategies coming together, and one thing might have a couple of strategies within it. But antithesis is a great way of showing the difference in a really obvious way. Some examples of antithesis would be some of these, right? Extremism and moderation being used together here. These are considered opposite ideas, right? That's not voice, it's supposed to say vice and virtue, right? Ideal thing, real thing, everybody, nobody. Notice that all of these kind of opposite terms are being used really close together in the same sentence. That's a great example of antithesis being used. They have to be used close together. So, how do you spot antithesis in a larger piece of writing? Well, let's take, for example, an AP rhetorical analysis prompt. Okay, this is an actual AP prompt from 2008, and you can see that antithesis is one that does appear sometimes. This is a passage from a piece of writing about the flu in 1918. Take a second to pause this and just read the first couple of paragraphs and see if you can spot the use of antithesis. Go ahead and pause it right now. Obviously, you should have seen pretty much right off the bat, right? We have the use of certainty, and then the use of uncertainty. You might have also noticed use of strength and weakness, right? Even in this portion here, right? Something upon which to lean, something that will help you as opposed to something that probably won't help you. All right, is what that's saying. May not overcome significant obstacles. This is a great example of antithesis at work. You can see how the contrast of the two ideas, certainty and uncertainty, strength and weakness, something that will be helpful, something that won't be helpful, that together creates a very powerful choice for us as the audience. And that would affect the audience by setting up what the choice is. Okay, so that's a great example of antithesis being used in context. Hopefully, you have a better understanding of what antithesis is, why an author would use it, how it's used, and how to spot it. Remember to look out for antithesis when you're analyzing a piece for rhetoric.